Hello. Good morning. How are you all doing out there? I'd say you can see some bags under my eyes. You can see some squinting. You can see some chills. I mean, there's stuff going on. So let's talk about it because over the last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I've been sort of feeling into things and trying to put some words that could bring them to you today to understand. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. Please pass this around if this is good information for you. And again, if you haven't liked or subscribed to this, subscribe to it so you can get it on a regular basis. So let's just dive in. Okay. So it's been a bumpy week. Let's just be completely honest about that. It's been a very bumpy week. Is my microphone working? Test, test. Yeah. Okay. I didn't see the sign over there. Okay. So we've been feeling off. We've been feeling alone. We've been feeling overwhelmed. We've been feeling angry. We've been in pain. What else? What else do you want to put down there that we've been doing, right? We've been sort of a mess. And I want to start first with the solar flares, and then I want to take you through a little journey of some information that Amanda Lawrence presented yesterday, and just sort of see how it feels. Yeah, angelic realm, sick, definitely sick. Coming down with something, digestion's all over the place. So the symptoms are up. The symptoms that we've been listing over and over and over again within our solar flares symptom video is up, and the videos that I've done and continue to do on symptoms, right? So the flares have been consistent. And again, remember that when we have these repetitive C class flares, what they're doing is they're tapping us on the shoulder and they're saying, hey, wake up, wake up, wake up. And then when we wake up, we're like, wow, what's going on? And now we're sort of going back and forth between these two spots. Okay. This is the 10 of swords. So mentally, we were kind of checked out. We were doing life on a day-to-day basis. And now we are coming in. So remember, C classes are in here with this red. They're like tap, 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 tap. Hey, are you paying attention? Hey, are you happy? Hey, what's working? Right. And we've had an average of about a dozen a day of C classes. So they've been just steady. It's like they're trying to get our attention. Now, remember, the most important, where'd it go? Yeah, there it is. The most important is that the M classes are between M1 and M6, and we've had anywhere between 1 or 2 per day, except for last week. I know we had a solar flare schedule. If you look at it right here, is that here on the 12th and the 13th, we had just C classes, and then we've had M classes all the way through. This is on spaceweather.com. Okay. So, and what it's been looking like is this. It's just like bump, it bump, did a bump, did bump. And it's all hanging out below this X class level. So it's a lot of activity in the C's and the M's, which means these M classes, when they come, again, remember they're tower moments, but they're sort of the gentle tower moments. They're like, hey, and Mars is in there because Mars is opposing Pluto, right? And this tower moment's like, are you awake? What are you doing? Are you ready? Are you ready? So it isn't like we ever get a moment of rest. It's almost like this is what our day-to-day life looks like, is that we're by ourselves navigating the physical steps ahead of us and looking around to see if there's anybody else. And that's why we come here and we gather. That's why we have discussion group. That's why we do a lot of things that are going on. Because remember, we've got the solar flares. They've been consistent. They've been low level. We've also had geomagnetic storms. And those geomagnetic storms have been causing us to have a lot of those symptoms that we usually have, which is exhaustion. Yep, Julia. We're in survival mode. We are just barely holding on, and we're like, why? What is going on? Why is it so different? Because in my mind, I would think that if I had some X flares coming in, I'd go, well, that makes sense. But this is like that steady, repetitive. Now, we're going to go back to this topic that I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, which is as Pluto has been going retrograde and diving down into 29 degrees. If you want more information on that, you can go back and watch my previous videos. We on the 11th hit that, and then we've been starting back up. This is not this means the work is not over. We have another almost 6 weeks, 5.5 weeks of building, rebuilding who we want to be, what our role is, and what we're going to do as we move out of this. We're in the technical rebuilding, feeling, making changes, doing, feeling our way through it. Makes sense, right? So don't forget that this is what's at play almost all the time right now, right? So, our biggest solar flare came, what was it? Our biggest solar flares, we had 8 M-class solar flares on Wednesday. And yesterday we had 5. And 5 is the highest one we've had all week at a M6. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Now, let's not underestimate that the full moon came on the 17th on Thursday. And that full moon was jam packed. It was huge. It was powerful. It tipped a lot of us over. It tipped me over from about the 14th or 15th on. I'm still tipped from it. I'm still integrating because it was in Aries. And it's way too complicated for me to explain it because I'm not an astrologer, what all of the different planetary aspects were to that full moon, other than to say that there were so many other planets. They were having a big conversation, and they were having a big conversation about what's going on right now on Earth, and they were sort of sending it. So you can go to Madrona's Pulse and see what Iris J has to say about that. You can read Pam Youngins on what her perspective, and Pam Gregory on the full moon. Go back and look at that, and especially now in hindsight, because you can sort of put it in perspective, right? Yet, these symptoms are not going away. As a matter of fact, I'm seeing them increasing. I'm experiencing steady ear ringing almost all day. Oh, yeah. I forgot there was also the big grand cross that was associated with that, with that full moon. So it was an ass kicking, huge full moon. Let's just put it that way. And we are still bumping around on it, right? Okay. So I'm experiencing ear ringing constantly. Like, in fact, I find myself checking my phone 3 and 4 times a day. Like, is something else up? And then I'll see it's a C6. It's an M2. I don't understand why the ringing is so intense, right? That I'm having body issues, pains, something will flare up and then it'll go back away and I'll go, what was that? Right? There's been an increase in anger, in impatience, in worry. And so that was what brought this up. A lot of this topic is this worry card within the thought deck is what happens when our mental processing, especially Mercury, is in Taurus, right? Is in the physical world. So discs, this is the 5 of discs. So what happens when our mind starts to create all sorts of things, because form follows thought, starts to create things in physical form. But it's really interesting when I look at the Osho Zen, which is I'm in this mental prison, right? And I don't know how to get out. And it looks like there's all sorts of wonderful, magical things I want to go out there and explore, right? I want to go out and be and go do what I'm here to do, but I don't know how to get out of this mental construct. And the whole point of why I do these videos is that mental construct is something that our world has created and imposed or held in place through all of the different institutions, whether it's family, religion, education, politics. And so what we're finding is that we're impatient. We don't know what to do to get out of this. And yet we have this desire to go be free, right? To go just jump and go do something absolutely wonderful. And we're locked in. So that's what I want to talk about today is that, we've been, whether we track the flares and then we look around and we go like, wow, like the chaos is up. Because what I'm going to say is what's always been in plain sight is starting to reveal itself on a completely different level, which is something that I would say like politics. I've never seen 2 candidates in the United States throw as much dirt back and forth on each other as I have. and going like, wow, our political system is really, you can start to see who's pulling the strings behind the scenes. Then you have this whole P. Diddy thing where everybody's talking about who might be involved, and the entertainment industry, the political industry, the leadership industry is kind of held in real tight, going like, I don't know what to do. So we're watching all of this and we're tracking it, and we're starting to sort of go, ooh, something else is going on. I need to get out of this construct because it's pretty toxic, it's pretty dirty, right? And you're noticing things like it's getting louder. The world is getting louder. The drivers are getting worse. I heard about 2 hit and runs in our little tiny town where somebody just smashed into a car, backed up, and drove away. Really interesting. Increase in alcohol and drug use, anxiety, definitely impatience of like, I got to get out of here. I want to get out of this, right? And remember, we are still being pushed on by 2 things. We're being pushed on this Pluto, and we're also being pushed up here on Mars in action. So there's some really big stuff coming on, and we're like, whoa. So I'm thinking, how do I going to explain all of this? And this morning I read Amanda Lawrence, who's this beautiful, gentle soul who does a very good job of interpreting energy and giving us some guidelines. And I really like what she said, because she gives a path of information that I can read and then bring to you, or you can read. I posted it on my Facebook page. Go there and read it, or look up Amanda Lawrence, Lorence. Okay. She says that we're up leveling our state of being, our frequency, our light. So that brings me over to this card. We're up leveling our state of being, our frequency. Whether you call it ascension, whether you call it awakening, whether you call it cellular reconstruction, we are starting to up level, right? Now, the second thing is that when we up level, the external world gets really obvious to us. It gets very loud, it gets very chaotic, and the revelations begin, right? So, what she also says is that as we up level, what's happening is that we're moving into our role changes. The roles that we went into, what's a really good card for this? The roles that we went into kept us confined in a structure that was good for the world, but not good for us. We came in here to do something different. So we are looking at it and go, I don't fit here anymore. I don't know who my people are. I don't know where my tribe is, but I don't fit here anymore because we're changing internally. We're changing from the inside out. Now, this card came up several times this week in my tarot readings. Now, one of the things I like about this is the messenger of cups. This is our emotions. And so you have this construct of this bird cage, but it doesn't really have a door. And the bird has sat behind it almost the same way that this kid has, almost the same way that in the light seers, you can just sit there and go, I'm stuck here. I can't ever get out. But the key is, especially on this card, the key is sitting right here. All this person has to do is get up and open the door and physically change the physical environment. This key over here, this lock is unlocked. All the kid has to do is get some courage and open take the lock off the chain, open the chain, and go out. This one's even better because the doors are off and there is an entire world. Let's just call that this community where we are right now going, hello, come on out, come play with us. Let's go do this, right? Because we're changing internally. When we change internally, we get to watch how it sort of sparkles and changes us into the external world. And the external world hasn't really caught up with us yet. It isn't matching us. So we are not in a position where we can wait. The world might be dark, it might be scary, there might be a lot of pieces that have to fall into place because we've been doing this individually first, right? Makes sense. And we don't want to wait for it. Amanda Lawrence says, don't wait for it. What we do is we observe and we nurture and we study what's going on. And then we get out there and we do what we're here to do, right? So we use this Mars opposition. And that's where we're going to go right back over here to this, where Mars is in Cancer and Pluto's in Capricorn, and they're opposite each other, and they've been getting ready to come in and stand directly opposite on November 3rd. And so what we want to do is we want to use that energy that Mars gives us, that fire, and the sign of Cancer, which is the nurturing, the home and hearth energy. And what we want to do is we want to be really tender with ourselves right now, right? We want to protect ourselves from this harsh chaos outside, which might look like maybe I'm not going to go out to a bar where there's really loud music tonight, because I did that last night, by the way, because it was a goodbye party and it was beautiful to see friends and way too loud, right? And it just hurt everything that was already sort of off balance. And we want to encourage this freedom that's possible with these role changes, right? With these role changes that we're going through and doing. Makes sense, right? So what we're feeling is that the external that is, well, what is it? What should I use? I guess the external that's programmed and has kept us in a constructed world is falling apart. We can't go back. We can't unsee what we saw, but it's just uncomfortable right now, and we don't really know what to do. So I have some tips for you, some really good tips. I have 5 tips for you. Before I go there, I want to continue to introduce that I have a Patreon account, and there's a link down below. And for $11 a month, you can come in and join the discussions. I'm adding a second discussion next week, not this week. On probably in a morning time, so that I can address the UK and those of you in Europe, which I'm so thankful that you're watching. So you'll be able to do a discussion there. If you can, there's a link below. You can also sign up through my Acuity, and that entire Patreon with the 3 tiers will be up and fully running by November 1st. I just wanted to get the first level out there so that we could start to use the discussion groups to do that. Now, thank you. Thank you so much. And then, as usual, there's other links down there. If you want to donate or buy me a cup of coffee and say thank you for this information, I would really appreciate that. It really helps. Every little bit helps. So thank you. Okay. Tip number 1, because Mars and Pluto are in this opposition, and it's calling us to nurture the new you. Mars is going to come in with this power, but it's also, remember, in Cancer. So we're talking about nurture you. First tip is nurture you. Nurture, which is like, what happens when you have a young child or a pet? What happens when they're activated, or they're tired, or they're hurt, or there's fireworks going off and they're scared, right? What you do is you want to calm them down, and then you want to create a level of calmness that stays. We want to do that within our own body. So it's about gentle actions, gentle nourishing, whether it's bathe, whether it's taking baths, whether it's taking walks out in nature, whether it's lowering our voice and using a softer voice, an internal self-talk, whether it's humming to bring a vibration that's you into your body. I learned a really good hum from a phenomenal therapist and friend of mine, who just goes, yeah. And so I've been doing that a lot. Like, yeah. It's pretty chaotic out there. So number 1 is to nurture yourself above all else. Number 2, recognize that that you own freedom. Recognize that this is who you are right now. Recognize that you are, on top of the world, that you hold a frequency, and you've broken away from the locked in programmed environments, right? So with this freedom comes courage, right? Courage, so much courage to sort of get out there and shine on your own, right? Courage to resist going back. It's so easy to just go over and have a couple beers and sit with your friends and start to get all sloshy and dull again. It's really easy to go back to the old patterns because they're safe and secure. It takes courage to, break away from that. It takes courage to let go and say goodbye to people we love and know, and go, I'm sorry, you're just not healthy for me. I can't grow the way I need to grow with this right now. It takes courage to trust that something better is coming. It takes courage. So that's what we're really at right now, is recognize that you have freedom, and the freedom is held in place by your own courage to be able to go, what do I need right now? How do I get up and unlock the door and change my life? How do I, where is he? Where's my little guy? Open the gate and go out and see what kind of wonderful world I'm going towards, right? Okay, number 3, use your heart more. We've talked often about using this heart intelligence, using this field, right? So when you're, what I'm going to say is, as often as you can, whether you're in a coffee shop, whether you're at a dinner with your family, whether you're at work, crack your heart open and just share that vibration. It's almost like you just go, so here I am. And you just sort of hum it, right? And when you open that up, what happens is that you create a stability in the environment around you, and you're the source of it, right? And so I had a really good friend of mine who was going to a family event this weekend, and the advice that I gave her was, send your heart ahead and just send it out there and open it all up, so that when you come in, they're already softened to you, they're already aware of you, they already feel you, and they're like, oh, there she is, she's magnificent. Okay, so use your heart and send your heart energy out there. This is how powerful you are. Okay, number 4, it's going long. Sorry about this. So much to talk about. Number 4, those of us who are making role changes, we know it can be lonely. It is absolutely lonely when we can't stay where we are, and we absolutely don't fit in with anybody else anymore either, right? So that loneliness, keep in mind that we are, those of us who have gone into this higher frequency, this expanded frequency, this awakeness, this whatever we want to call it, whatever term, I don't want to put a term on it, but just know that when you are changing into what you were here to be, that you're on a solo path. You're like sprinkles all over the country you live in. It isn't like everybody around you does the same thing. It's very lonely. And so what we have to do is understand that we lead, we share, we inspire, and then we, come back and we nurture ourselves and we take care of ourselves, because it's really tough to be this isolated away from everybody else, right? So nurture ourselves, gather in places like this where we can talk about it, come to discussion. We had 4 brand new souls come in last week, and it was so wonderful just to keep supporting each other in what we're doing. And number 5, of course, is to have compassion. So this is the carnelian stone. This stone holds compassion. Often when I'm doing deep work with someone who's in pain, I will hold this. This is also ironite, which is the physical earth. So sometimes I'll just hold these 2 right now and go like, I am really changing who I am on this physical plane. And so have compassion for yourself, for the others who are in pain, who are struggling, who are angry, who are reactive. For those who want to leave, there are going to be a lot of people who go tapping out. This is now above. It's like leaving a college class when the information is above where you want to go, or more difficult than you thought. You can come out and come back in later, whatever. There are going to be people who want to leave. There are people who can't or won't change, and they're going to insist that you stay and do this with them. But just have compassion, because our entire world is changing, and we are seeing the chaos and the changes going on, and it requires an enormous amount of compassion. So with love, I send you out there this week. Come talk to us on Tuesday. There'll be a group. And if not, I will see you next week. You take care. Bye-bye.